My name is Thomas, and I am an engineer and an inventor. When I was in high school, I was a nerd. There's no two ways about it. People bullied me because of my appearance. I had to wear really thick lenses because of how poor my eyesight was. It wasn't a great time, but there was no one as bad as Zach Green. Zach Green had followed me from kindergarten to high school. He started with snatching toys from my hands to stealing my glasses and stamping on them. In elementary, he broke my glasses over 15 times. I grew up in a poor family, and he in a wealthy one. When he broke my glasses, my parents asked his parents to replace them, but they never did. I guess this refusal to show their son how to take responsibility only further encouraged him. If I thought him breaking my glasses was problematic, I was setting the bar incredibly low. He cost my family a lot of money. I spent much of my childhood with tape around the frames of my glasses and selling lemonade at the end of my driveway in the hopes that I could sell enough to take some of the financial burden off of my parents. My dad once calculated that it would take 3,000 glasses of lemonade to cover the cost of the replacements. That didn't stop me from trying. Zach Green evolved to stuffing my head down the toilet in 5th grade. Every time, it felt like I was drowning, and I thought each time that he was going to kill me. In 6th grade, he'd lock me in the bathrooms after my computer lessons. He got out of basketball at the same time. Once, the police were called, and a search party was sent out because I couldn't get out and the school had been locked up. I'd been so panicked that I'd cried myself to exhaustion. It was pitch black and eerily silent. I had to take a week off of school because I couldn't sleep. The stress made me unwell. Of course, when I told the school about that Zach Green had been the one to lock me in, they told me not to tell tales, and that playing in the school after hours is wrong. They threatened to suspend me. My parents threatened to sue. No one did anything to stop him. In middle school, he stole my lunch and knocked me around. I started wearing contacts so that he couldn't break my glasses. They stung after a few hours, and I had to sit really close to the board to read. I was living in hell. But my parents couldn't afford to send me anywhere else, since it would cost money for transportation, and my school was within walking distance. Eventually, I had to stop taking money for food. I skipped lunch. I quit computer class. I stayed late in every class so that Zach never had another opportunity to bully me. By the time we were in high school, our classes were rarely together. His sports clubs ended later than the clubs I wanted to join. I avoided him for the most part. When I did run into him, it was brutal. He will shove me into a locker. It's been 10 years since I graduated high school. I've since earned myself a master's in engineering, and I've made millions by designing, creating, and selling the unbreakable frame. You see, all that trouble Zach caused by breaking my glasses led me to a revelation and to revolutionizing the field of glasses making. You see, after I finished up my education, I threw myself into creating. I worked in an up-and-coming company that made time-resistant materials. In my downtime, I worked on glasses frames and lenses that wouldn't break so easily and were affordable. One day, while at the lab, I stumbled across an alloy that was cheap to manufacture, easy to mold, and in constant supply. I got it patented, and then worked with the team I was appointed to create something with it. I was pushing for the glasses, and soon, we made the lenses. Within a month, I went from earning 5 figures a year to being a millionaire with my own company. One morning, after coming back from a vacation in Bangkok, I saw in the local newspaper that the Green family fortune had been lost after a fire had burned down their store. Their insurance couldn't cover enough of the damage to save them from being destitute. The story didn't speak much about the individual family members, but it suggested that they'd have to look for jobs elsewhere. For the first time since I'd left school, I thought about Zach Green, and I couldn't help but wonder if he or any of his family members might come in for an interview at my company. It was a long shot, but a possibility. The next day at work, as I was on my way to my office, when one of the supervisors from Human Resources rushed over to speak with me.
Sorry, sir, but one of the interviewers called in sick last minute, and I can't find anyone else that is free. Do you have time to help us and sit in on some interviews?
I hated interviewing people. Never is a person more dishonest than while they're working towards getting something they want. But I couldn't leave my supervisor in the lurch, so I went to help. In the interview room, I joined 2 of my employees on one side of a big desk. On the other side was a single chair and a blank notepad. Slowly, we interviewed the various people that came in and asked them the same questions. Do you think you're reliable? What is your biggest weakness? Have you ever been reprimanded at work? It was boring work, but I could see how stressful it was for some of them. We were nice, polite, but serious. We couldn't let just anyone in. Then, after about 15 applicants were interviewed, a familiar face showed up.
Hello. Thank you for interviewing me.
You're very welcome. I waited for the flash of recognition, but there was nothing. He smiled politely and took his seat. I couldn't figure out whether I was offended or relieved that he didn't seem to know who I was. What is your biggest weakness?
I never know when to stop. I like to keep going until something is completed.
That tracked. He didn't stop bullying me until I was miserable. What can you tell us about your work experience in relation to the job you're applying to?
This job has a lot of similarities with my old job. See, I used to work for my family business, a store that sold and installed all kinds of equipment from plumbing to electronics. Unfortunately, we lost everything to bad luck and circumstance. Now, I'm doing what I can to find a job to keep my parents going. They're in shock and getting on, you know? It's up to me to support them.
He seemed so mature, and I could see what was happening. Part of me knew that he was lying just to get the job, but I was intrigued and a devilish plan formed in my mind. Well, Mr. Green, I think you would work out well here. Welcome aboard. I could tell by the smile on his face that he still did not recognize me and that he felt confident that he had fooled us. But that would only make what I had planned all the sweeter. For his first week of work, I avoided him and just let him get comfortable in his new job. But as his second week of work began, I instructed his supervisor to give Zach a lot of work and an unreasonable deadline. At first, the supervisor was confused at my unusual request, but I assured him that I had a very good reason and promised him that I would explain why at a later date. I had always been a fair and caring employer, and so he did as he was asked, without any further questions. That week I made a point to swing by Zach's department and see how the extra workload was affecting him, and I could see that he felt overwhelmed, but also that he desperately needed this job, and so he buckled down and did the best that he could. The following week, I instructed the supervisor to give him even more tasks and delighted when I saw how much he was struggling to keep up with the workload. My plan was to slowly increase the difficulty of his tasks until he could handle no more and quit on his own. But in the meantime, I was enjoying watching him struggle. That is until Human Resources came to me with some complaints. The first was that Zach had had an argument with someone in the cubicle next to his. They shared a wall, and Zach had been slowly moving it so that his office was bigger. The other employee was a much smaller man and had lost almost 2 feet of his office before he finally spoke up and asked Zach to move the wall back to where it was supposed to be. Zach, however, just laughed at him and threatened to keep pushing the wall until the man had little more than enough room for his chair. As if that wasn't bad enough, someone had been eating other people's food from the communal fridge in Zach's department, and while no one had seen him take anything. There was an unusual amount of garbage, Zach's garbage bin, and all of it matched the items that people had claimed had gone missing from their lunches. It was clear to me that Zach hadn't changed since high school and was still an intolerable bully. As much as I wanted to keep annoying Zach, I also knew that I couldn't let my employees suffer while I delighted in tormenting him. And so, I asked security to discreetly place a camera in the break room, and less than a day after it was installed, we caught Zach stealing other people's lunches on videotape. Since he was still within his first 90 days, we didn't have to give much of a reason to fire him, and so I went to his department to deliver the news in person. Hello there, Zach. How are you doing today?
Oh, hi there. You were one of the people that interviewed me. Things are going great. I really think that I'm nailing this job.
Is that so? Well, that is interesting. By any chance, do you recognize me?
No. I mean, can you give me a good reason why I should? No offense, but I typically don't pay much attention to nerds.
His laughter at my expense made what I was about to do feel even more rewarding. That is interesting, especially since if you had bothered to ask around, you would have discovered that my name is Thomas. The same one that went to grade school and high school with you. The same one that you tormented for years. But also the owner of this company. I waited a minute to let what I had just said really sink in. A look of dread slowly crept up on his face, and his smile faded quickly. Yeah, so, we caught you on tape being a thief and stealing people's lunches. Honestly, I don't know how someone can grow up and still do such childish bullying, especially at a job where they are still on probation. But you were never the sharpest tool in the shed. He slowly tried to stammer out an apology, but I stopped him. Yeah, don't bother. It goes without saying that you're fired, and that I will make it my mission that you will never work in this town ever again. I'll tell all the other companies in the city, as well as many worldwide, that you have been blacklisted. You'll be lucky to work at a gas station in this town." Seconds later, 2 security guards walked up behind me and then escorted Zach out of the office. True to my word, I told everyone that would listen how awful of a person that Zach was. And as a result, the only job that he was able to find was working for a fast food chain, flipping burgers. As a result, his family's business never did recover, and many of Zach's family members were forced to declare bankruptcy. I knew that it was petty, but I honestly felt vindicated in causing Zach and his family to go through such hardships after he and his parents, considering how they had made my life a living hell and how much financial hardship they had placed on my family in the past. It was rather poetic that I was given a chance to exact revenge on the man that had made the first half of my life a nightmare. Thanks for watching. Please like and share.